What's going on to all my Foundation fans out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again with my weekly recap, breakdown, and review of the latest episode of Apple TV Plus Foundation. Today we're breaking down episode 6, which was titled Death in the Maiden, an episode in which we see the Emperor paying a visit to Halima. We see that the young brother Dawn falls in love, and Farrah takes hostages. We're breaking it all down here in this spoiler review, but before we dive into it all, make sure you all are checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel, well, welcome to the community. Consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. That way you can get the alert for when I drop new content. If you all enjoyed this spoiler review of episode 6 of Foundation, well, make sure to like and share the review. It helps out the channel a lot, but I also appreciate all the support. And in those comments, let's break down this 6th episode together, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about the 3 different stories that we got here in episode 6. Which was your favorite out of the 3? Which was your least favorite? Let's talk about pros, cons, and of course your thoughts and theories for the weeks ahead in the comments below. So just briefly, just my initial thoughts on this episode without getting too deep into it before we break it all down. All pun intended, I wasn't necessarily over the moon about this episode. It had its moments, like the stuff on Terminus and Farrah and seeing her plans come to fruition has been intriguing. The death of Solar's dad didn't really hit me emotionally, which we'll talk about in this review. Brother Dom, Brother Dusk, him being a man, him obviously being different from his brothers is interesting, but not all that compelling so far, especially this love thing that he has with the gardener. But listen, Lee Pace is my guy. He's been my favorite character of the show so far. His interactions with Mademoiselle, his interactions with the Leviathans, that stuff is very compelling. But again, it had its highs, it has its lows. We're going to break it down. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments below as we open up the episode with Brother Day, the Emperor, traveling to the Ceres system to meet Halima, as we know that she is the one that's kind of challenging the Emperor in regards to who's going to be the next Proxima. But it's on his journey, and I love this stuff here that he's talking to Mademoiselle as she's giving him the history lesson of the Leviathans. As we learn as an audience, they have the lore, the mythology of the 3 goddesses and the 3 moons, and that the Maiden is the only one that's being inhabited. I love all this world building. I love the mythology in this world. I want to learn more. I want to learn more about this religion. I want to learn more about the Leviathans, especially after coming off of Dune. It looks like Arrakis, so I'm loving all that stuff here. And I want to focus, as we talk about this review here, focus a little bit on what's going on this planet. First and foremost, as I mentioned, Lee Pace is phenomenal, but his interactions with Mademoiselle, I love that character so much. She's the last of her kind. I love the intellect that she has. I love that we get a conversation about her purpose, her faith, and just how much she cares. And I think she's going to be such a pivotal character for not only this season, but the seasons ahead. But I think she's going to be the only one that's going to try to attempt to keep these brothers together, because we're seeing each and every week they're so much different than one another, and this might be the Cleon cycle that might break the Empire, but we'll get into that a little bit later. But again, I love Mademoiselle, I love Emperor Day and their conversations at hand. But speaking of conversations at hand, it is time for the Emperor to meet Halima, as we see that she has her tradition. The Leviathans have their tradition in welcoming someone with this drink. We see that she has good intentions, but the Emperor does not take pace in this tradition, and I just love and really enjoy the tension, the lack of trust that these two have. And I love this first interaction between these 2 characters, and I can't wait to see what the rest of this show has to offer with those 2 characters, because there's obviously a rift and some discomfort between the 2, as we see the Emperor does not want Halima in that spot, but he appoints Zephyr Halima-a, despite the people wanting Halima in this position, and he promises to give them clean water for the rest of his reign. As we see later on, Halima gets the opportunity to speak at the Proxima's funeral, and it's in this moment that you clearly can see the Leviathans want her as the next Proxima. She lifts the people, she gives them spirit, she gives them hope, but that doesn't please the Emperor, as again, he wants the young lady to be the next Proxima, but the people have their champion, they have their leader in place. So it's going to be really interesting to see this dichotomy and this politics and everything about the power and who's in power, who's not in power. Very interesting stuff. And again, Lee Pace, when he's upset, we all know what he did in episode 2. So if I'm Halima, I'm walking pretty tightly on that rope to not piss him off. But again, I really thought that all that stuff on that planet Maiden was really interesting. But I gotta admit, guys, this was my least favorite part of the episode. Out of the 3 stories, This one was the weakest as we go to Brother Don and his love story, which didn't have that much to do at the beginning of the episode because we're spending most of his story with him and his older brother Dusk as they are hunting. And the goal that Brother Dusk has for his younger brother is to have him become a man, as he wants him to go on the hunt, as he wants him to, indulge in some sexual behaviors, which we see that he doesn't want to do that. But it is important to note that as Brother Dusk is trying to get him on the same path, as we know the tradition of the Cleon, but this Brother Don is much different than his other brothers. We'll talk about his big secret in a little bit here, but it was interesting to see Brother Don hide his hunts, that he killed 6 of those creatures, and he didn't want his brother to be upset. He's smart. He's playing the field smartly. He is, again, I didn't like this storyline, but I like where it's going. It's a little bit slow for my taste, but he doesn't want to set the course too far off. He wants them to think that he's online in the Cleons. He's doing the things that his other brothers have done generations before him, but he's a lot different than his other brothers, which brings us to, again, the stuff that's really not working for me quite yet, and I think it's just a matter of chemistry. I don't think the two actors are really working for me in regards to the love interest between Brother Don and this gardener, as we see, and plus two, the placement of this scene felt weird, as we'll talk a little bit later about Salvar's dad dying, but we go from a death scene to this scene of Brother Don talking to the gardener. He shares a big secret with her, and it is a big secret because he isn't the same like his other brothers. He's colorblind, which is they're perfectly made, but he has some deficiencies. He has some, imperfections, which is, again, makes him so much different than his other brothers. He shares that with her. She's like, well, you can just kill me if you don't trust me, and he ultimately does trust her, and they kiss. And we talked about this, 2 episodes ago? Partner who saw Brother Don jump out of the window by the name of Azura, as she is giving him a gift, and it's a leaf that's going to heal him. And you can obviously see, and I've seen enough TV shows and movies and know they're going to have a romance. This Azura character and Brother Day will have this romance, and I can just see this clone who doesn't have a soul falling in love with this human girl, and how that's going to cause conflict with them amongst the brothers as well. And maybe they're going to probably have that Azura character be killed, or have the Shadow Master kill her. I can see those storylines. That love story was obviously the angle the show's going to go, but interesting enough, we see the Shadow Master finds out about those 3 other ducks or 3 other creatures that he killed, and I think that's going to be just setting the stage for Brother Don and this gardener lover. He's going to want to fall in love with her. Remember, they don't have souls, but he's going to fall in love with her. And Brother Dusk, the Shadow Master, are going to want her killed. It's going to end up putting a rift between the brothers and the Empire, and the whole Empire is going to probably crumble from within because of love. And this is the theme of this episode, as we see Salvar's dad. He joined the Foundation because of love, and we see Hugo and Salvar, their love. So it's a lot of love going on. We know sometimes love can cloud your judgment. So again, I thought that the Brother Don stuff was the weakest element of the episode. It had points, it has things that's going to lead towards future things, but I just don't think the execution has been working for me entirely quite yet. But let me know, again, what was your favorite, least favorite stories out of the 3 as we wrap up with, which I think was the most action entertaining element of this episode, and that's all the stuff that we got on Terminus, as we see that the commander from the Emperor ship is still alive, but Farrah's he's valuable, we're going to need him for, as she's really setting and creating this hostage situation for she can get on this planet destroyer ship, as we'll talk about here in this breakdown. But it's Farrah, man. She's really doing some good stuff for me. I'm really enjoying, like I mentioned when we first met her, she reminds me of Game of Thrones Dothraki, just her passion, her hatred towards the Empire, as her mission continues to move on, as she's gathering important people on Terminus to go on this next mission, to go on to what she needs to go through on her plans. Meanwhile, and this was a little bit silly to me, the Anacreons have been presented to us as formidable, fighters, warriors, but yet they're able to be taken down by 2 children. I thought that scene was a little bit too over the top for me. It wasn't believable. I didn't really enjoy that scene, but nonetheless, we see the boys take Salvar, and they tell her that Farrah's plans is to find this ghost ship, and this is where we kind of get the play into motion, all the emotional beats of this episode, which didn't really work for me. But we see that Hugo is still alive, as well as Salvar's dad, and their plan is to take out these planet-destroying ships. As we see, they make their way to the ships, but unfortunately, Salvar goes into this mind slip, as Hugo calls it, but it's a pretty important mind slip, vision, dream sequence, as you may, as she goes back to the time in which we do see, and I guess this answers my question from last week, is Harry really dead? Yeah, he is dead, as we see him talking to his son Rish, as he talks about, you falling in love with Gail is putting all of my plans into jeopardy. So you have to take me out. I don't want you seeing her. I don't want you saying goodbye to her, as we know that he did. So and why I don't, again, the book readers probably know, but I don't know why he can't love Gal and why he had to kill Harry. I guess obviously time will tell, but I guess that does solidify that he is dead. But what is this hologram that we saw last week? Again, I'm really intrigued to see, is Harry alive or dead? But right now, I guess the show is telling us that he is dead, but I guess we'll find out in the weeks ahead. But going back to it, she snaps out of this vision, dreamlike sequence, only to find that her father dies. He sacrifices himself to blow up the ships that Farrah would have needed to take out, and to go through in her mission, which I'll be honest with you all, I didn't feel the emotion. I didn't feel that death. I didn't feel the weight. Obviously, there were stakes there, but I don't think the show established it enough, at least for me, to see that father and daughter relationship. I should have felt that. I should have felt the emotion. I should have been crying with Salvor, but I just felt like the moment wasn't rich enough. I felt like the moment was actually kind of rushed because, as I mentioned earlier, we go from that moment, which felt like 10 seconds of his death, and then we go to this whole love story with Brother Don. So I thought the placement of the death didn't work. I feel like the emotions didn't work, and I wish I would have resonated with that scene more. Let me know if you guys got emotional with that scene, but I'll just be honest, I didn't feel like the execution was all that great. Which brings us to kind of the final moments of the episode, as we see Hugo reprograms the ship that they need to go on this mission, and he puts Salvor in control, which Farrah is obviously upset about this, but she has to rely on Hugo's navigation and rely on the chosen people that she has to go on this mission. Wrapping everything up here, we see that Salvor tells her mother what happened to their dad. She really doesn't have a moment to process it, which again, I didn't feel like the death was really earned. I don't feel like it was executed properly, but they are, and the weight of his death, I just didn't feel it there, but they are on their way to enter the Forebelt to go on Farrah's mission. So again, the Terminus stuff had action, had the interesting reveal revolving around Harry and all that stuff. But again, I felt that the emotion should have been there. I did not feel the weight of Salvor's dad. I am intrigued to see this mission, but I wish it was just a little bit more emotional. I mentioned to you all the stuff with Brother Don and the love interest that he has isn't working for me at all so far. I see where the show's going with that, with the Shadow Master, with Brother Dusk, but right now that whole subplot is one of the weakest so far. But again, Lee Pace as the Emperor and Deremozel and everything with Halima, that stuff is very intriguing. And to see that back and forth, that pull and tug will be interesting to see moving forward. So again, some highs, some lows, but that's just my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. What do you hope to see in the 7th episode? Will we see the continuation of that? Is Harry alive, and how will Gail play into the main plot, and will she ever come across the other main characters? What will happen with the Emperor? What will happen with the other brothers? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you stuck around to this point in the video, I appreciate every single one of you all. Before you leave, make sure to like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that bell. That way you don't miss any of my other future reviews. Hope you all are staying safe. Hope you enjoyed this review. For my sci-fi fans, as you can see on the screen now, subscribe to my channel, but also check out my Dune review as well as my other recent reviews. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.